You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristadoulou.
What's up, everyone, and good morning to my West Coast people, good afternoon to my East Coast people, and whatever time it is everywhere in between. Welcome back to the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristadoulou, and today I am continuing the Draft Grade series as we discuss the Las Vegas Raiders today, going through each and every pick of their NFL draft for the 2022 calendar and breaking each player down, giving my grades for the players, then the days, and then ultimately the entirety of the draft. This will include discussion of the trade with Devonte Adams, because while they didn't pick him during the draft, those draft picks were used on him, and I 100% believe that you cannot grade the Raiders draft class, or anyone's draft class for that matter, especially if they are spending first and second round capital on a player prior to the draft without including that trade within the grading itself. So we'll start with day number 3. We'll work our way into day number 2 and then break down the day 1 trade about Devonte Adams. Make sure you comment down below, my Raiders fans. Let me know how you're feeling about this draft class. Hit that like button, subscribe button, and let's discuss. So we'll start from the bottom and kind of work our way up to the top here. And in the 7th round, we got a couple of selections here. We have one in Thayer Munford Jr., an offensive tackle out of Ohio State. He was a 4th round grade talent and somehow managed to fall all the way to the 7th. So props to the Raiders for being able to scoop this one up here. He's a 4-year starter, started at left guard and left tackle. Awesome frame at 6'6", 328 pounds. And he has 35 and 1/8 inch arms, So massive dude altogether. Really good power. He has the ability to kind of throw his opponents around, and that was something I noticed a lot of scouting people were noting about him, is that upper body strength is very impressive. The biggest issue with him really is his just overall lateral ability and somewhat of his athleticism as well. He's not really suited for zone blocking from what people are saying about him because of that lateral slowness, and on top of that, his balance and footwork are not necessarily the best. So I think that might be the reason why he was able to slip so far in the draft here, because again, he was kind of projected somewhere around a 4th round pick, and he fell all the way to the 7th. So it seems like just footwork concerns and not really fitting into zone blocking schemes, which a lot of NFL teams like to run, seems to be the biggest issue for him. Hopefully he can develop into something good for the Raiders, because the Raiders do need some players on the offensive line to really step up and make a difference there. So hopefully it works out well for him, but I gave him a C+. I think it's a solid pick. It was a position of need, and again, he has started at both left guard and left tackle, so he has versatility in where you can plug him in as need be. And then the other 7th round selection, Britton Brown, the running back out of UCLA. And I'm not really a fan of this pick, mainly because they took a running back earlier in the draft. And while you may not have a bunch of number 1s, and I mean, you do have Josh Jacobs still, and I understand he gets hurt a lot. I just think that having taken a running back earlier, and then with Britton Brown, he has good vision, very physical run style, kind of like a north-south type of runner. I mean, he has the ability to break tackles and run defenders over, but that's about it with his game. Not super shifty, doesn't really beat anyone with the cuts and moves and things like that. That was also noted a lot in scouting reports that I was reading about him. And what I've read about him is that a lot of people feel he lacks the true athleticism needed to convert himself at the pro level to be a legit guy. He also has not played on special teams very often, so he has a severe lack of special teams experience to go with him, and that kind of diminishes his value as a selection as well. I gave this one a D. I just don't really understand why they went running back here, when I understand Josh Jacobs has an injury history, but you still have Josh Jacobs, and like I said, you took a running back earlier in the draft, and we'll get to him when we get there. Just not really sure why this selection was made. If it is just roster depth, I just feel like there's got to be somebody out there that's already more proven as a 3rd string running back than taking a flyer on someone who essentially just runs people over. He does have really good vision, though. I'll give him that. When I was watching a lot of his highlights, he's very patient. He allows the lanes to develop before he runs through them, and he's able to spot things pretty quickly and burst through holes. So I'll give him that. But it sounds like for a lot of people, this is someone that probably could have just went undrafted, and ultimately it's going to be tough for him to make a roster with no special teams experience. Then we're looking at rounds 4 and 5 of day 3. You have 2 selections in round 4, and you also have a selection in round 5. We were just talking running backs here. So Zamir White, the running back out of Georgia, I actually really like this selection here. Like I was saying with the concerns about Josh Jacobs and his injuries, this is someone 6'4", 214 pounds. He's got 4.4 speed, very aggressive play style, someone who bursts through the hole, drops the shoulder, and runs through defenders. He has a great burst going into the second level as well once he makes it through the offensive line. There are some injury concerns about him, though. For as much as I do like him, he tore his his left ACL in 2018 and then his right ACL in 2017. So he does have himself injury history. And when you think about the issues you're dealing with someone like Josh Jacobs, not necessarily the best thing to be looking at, but I do like his pro potential altogether with the way he plays the game. And I guess one of the knocks in his game, really, not super creative as a runner. And again, that's another one of those things where it goes back to like the shiftiness, the jukes and things like that. He feels a little bit more like a north-south runner. He does make a cut here and there, though. When I was watching his highlight film, I did see him make jukes here and there. And me saying he's not exactly a creative runner isn't my words. That's also something I read off of a couple different places when they were like writing scouting reports out for him. His pass protection, though, does need work. I've seen a couple of instances where he's getting completely blown up and just allowing guys to get by him. So I will mention that. That was something I read about and also saw myself. But he's labeled as not a creative runner. And I'm curious because there was tape of him making people miss. And I watched a few different instances of him playing, and I feel like I was watching him, juke a defender, making a play, juking a defender here, or going through the middle, making a guy miss. And I don't know. People say that he's not a creative runner. I will say I did like the selection. I like what he brings to the table and what he was doing at Georgia. I gave the pick a B-. I think he's a solid selection. And again, with the questions at running back that you have with Josh Jacobs and the injuries that he deals with, good selection as a just-in-case type of guy. When you're looking at Neil Farrell, defensive tackle out of LSU, this guy, when you're watching his tape, quickness. Quick off the snap. Very good power. He has solid use of his hands. He's constantly keeping those legs turning, and he's never really giving up. Pegged as a running down only type of guy, though, by scouts. Overall athleticism apparently is a concern, though, and he didn't really test great at the combine, so that does make sense. I think it's a solid selection, especially when you need help on the D-line and you consider the draft picks that you had from a few draft classes ago, Clelin Farrell. You need to fortify that D-line and work on some things over there. I think that Neil Farrell is a good selection here. I gave this one a C+, but I will say in the 5th round, Matthew Butler, the D tackle out of Tennessee, this pick is an even better pick than that one, and it comes in a later round, funny enough. This guy, great play strength, great athleticism, and he's very easy to spot on tape because he is just hustling for such a big dude. He has excellent effort. He's very consistent on tape, getting off of blocks. However, sometimes it's a little bit later than you'd want it to be. He can get off of guys and he can get himself to the quarterback, but it takes him a little bit longer to do so in some instances. And in the NFL, things develop a lot quicker. Plays are finished off a lot faster. If you can't get off those guys quicker in the pros, some of the plays he's making at the college level won't be plays made at the pro level. He is awesome, though. I really like this selection. I think this is a really good piece to the defensive front. Probably the biggest knock for him is just he's not necessarily the best length, so he has a hard time keeping himself separated with the O-lineman, which again comes back to him sometimes having a hard time getting off of his blocks. He's good at doing it, but sometimes it just takes him a little bit longer than you'd actually like him to do. If he was a little bit longer, he might be able to keep himself distanced a little bit more and probably get off those blocks quicker. But overall, I really like the selection. I gave it a B. Like I said, awesome pick here. I like Matthew Butler, and I expect him to be an impact player very quickly for the Raiders. I gave the overall selections for day number 3 in its entirety a C+. There are some really good picks. Like I said, Zamir White's a good one, Neil Farrell, and Matthew Butler. The 7th round selections, though, Thayer Munford, he's going to end up probably being a little bit more of a project, someone who could potentially be an average player or so down the line. And again, with Britton Brown, with no special teams experience, it just seems like it almost feels kind of like a wasted pick, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've read about him, nobody really too impressed with his play style or anything like that. But overall, a solid average day 3. Now, going into day number 2, round 2, pick number 53, traded for Devonte Adams. I gave that an A. And then you also, in round 3 at pick number 90, had offensive guard Dylan Parham out of Memphis. I gave this one a B. This is another 4-year starter. Offensive lineman, can play both guard spots. He brings some versatility to the table. He has very good awareness in his gap coverage and in second-level targets. This is someone who can always find a guy and plug up the holes that needed to be plugged up in the offensive line when plays are developing. I really like this selection here. I was high on him going into the draft. The fact that the Raiders got him, especially needing to add to the offensive line, this is a really good pick here in my opinion. Like I said, I gave it a B. He is a slightly smaller guy. He's only 6'3", 311 pounds with 33 and 1/8 inch arms, so he is a little bit smaller for somebody at the guard position. He's going to need a couple of years or so to reach his full potential, but this is someone who brings versatility as he can play both the left and right side, and couple that with the fact that he was actually a pretty solid blocker as well. This is a good guy for the Raiders, so Raiders fans, you should be excited about this selection here. I really like this. And then, as I said, the trade for Devonte Adams. I gave the second round selection an A. Overall, for the day 2, I gave that overall a B+. I think that when you're bringing in an offensive guard at a much-needed position, and then you're also trading for the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, you could say, can't go wrong with that. B+, fair enough when you're giving an A and a B there. And then in day number 1, trade for Devonte Adams, I gave the selection an A again, which also means that day number 1 also gets itself an A. Now, the reason I'm giving this an A and maybe not something a little bit lower or not like giving it an A+, is because I love the ability that the Raiders had to go after and not really give up a absolute haul for Devonte Adams. You traded away 2 picks, a first and a second rounder. It is kind of a lot until you look at what the Dolphins gave up for Tyreek Hill. It's also a lot, though, when you look at what the Browns, per se, had to give up to get a wide receiver in Amari Cooper. Now, I know Cooper had a bit of a down year, but his down year was better than a lot of receivers in the NFL. It's very interesting to see the way this wide receiver market has kind of shaped itself out. But when you are the Raiders and you have the opportunity to bring in the best wide receiver in the NFL currently, to pair him up with his former teammate in college, someone who the quarterback, Derek Carr, really wanted to have on this team, and you have the ability now to pair him up with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, and then if Josh Jacobs can stay healthy in this offensive line with some of the selections you've had in this draft class, and the Raiders are looking legit. I mean, they made it to the playoffs this past season, and now you're adding Devonte Adams to the fold? Like, give me a break. This is a really solid pickup for the team, and I think it goes without saying, A for the selection. Awesome job. Awesome job by the Raiders going and getting their man, paying him. He's going to be on the team for a little bit here. I think Derek Carr's really excited. Overall, for the entirety of the draft, I settled on a B. Those day 3 selections kind of knocked the grade down a little bit here, but I mean, you make the play before the draft to get Devonte Adams in there. You spend those picks on Devonte. You make a good selection in the 3rd round there. Your day 2 overall with selections ends up being solid capital gain because you're bringing in an excellent wide receiver and a good offensive lineman, someone who could help fortify that group. Again, it's going to take him a couple of years to really reach his full potential, but he's someone who, if he's having a good camp and he's impressing, I could see potentially being a starter or getting at least a significant amount of snaps in his rookie year. And then, like I said, day 3, I like the selections. A lot of them are going to be will they work out type of selections. I think Matthew Butler is probably the best pick out of the day 3 group of guys. But I like the Raiders draft grade overall. Give it a B. Pretty good grade, I would have to say. My Raiders fans, let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. I appreciate y'all for watching. I will see you all in the next draft grade video. Have a good one.